This world is like the law of the jungle. Animals use their fangs and claws to hunt prey. Humans use their intellect to control. One class of people can dominate another because they know secrets that others do not. The secret lies in the technique of controlling human nature. What I'm saying isn't easy to grasp, so please remember to read until the end to fully understand. Greetings to all of you. Please take these words to heart. The 5 power tactics of a leader, once mastered, can make those around you follow your commands. 1. Designing a system to control instincts. Human nature has a bright side, but also a dark one. There's a very true saying, "There's no betrayal only because the price of betrayal isn't high enough." When the reward becomes large enough, the dark side of human nature is triggered. Never trust human nature. Only rules and systems can prevent its darker aspects from emerging. It's said that grave robbing often requires 2 people to succeed. For example, one person goes down into the pit to retrieve jewelry and gems, while the other stays above to pull them up with a rope. But initially, it often happened that the person pulling the rope, tempted by the treasure, betrayed their partner below. So, grave robbing evolved into teams, often father and son. Yet even then, there were cases of sons abandoning their fathers in the pit. Eventually, a rule was established. The son goes down to retrieve the goods, and the father stays above to pull the rope. From then on, no more abandonment occurred. This is truly the prototype of system building. There were once 7 people living together, sharing a large pot of porridge each day. At first, they decided who would divide the porridge by drawing lots, with a different person each day. As a result, each week they only had one full meal, the day they divided it themselves. Later, they chose a highly moral person to divide the porridge. But then everyone began trying to curry favor with or bribe that person, and the small group became corrupt. Finally, they devised a method. The person dividing the porridge had to wait until everyone else had chosen their share and take the last bowl remaining. To avoid being the one with the least, the divider tried their best to split it evenly. Everyone was happy and harmonious, and life improved. Though it was the same 7 people, different rules created different behaviors. This stems from understanding human nature. Every system must begin with recognizing the darker side of humanity. Thus, a good leader must be someone who deeply understands human nature. We see many people who highly value politeness and exhibit great teamwork. Never believe this is because they were born with noble qualities. Nor should you think it's entirely due to education. Germans have a good habit. Those who go first like to hold the door for those behind them. Some say Germans are born with high character, but that's not entirely true. The real reason is that after the Federal Republic of Germany was established, the government introduced a set of rules. For example, in Germany, there's a law stating that if you carelessly injure someone while closing a door, you must compensate them unconditionally and assist with their treatment. These regulations are very specific and highly practical. Over time, adhering to traffic laws, queuing in order, and so on became habits, and society grew more civilized. A system must be designed from the perspective of not trusting human nature, only then will it succeed. Many leaders struggle with their subordinates. The main reason is they trust human nature too much, kind-hearted but soft-handed. Being an overly compassionate boss is like handing someone a knife to stab you. Leading a team with a good system can turn bad people into good ones. A poor system can make good people turn bad. A good system must balance trust and oversight simultaneously. 2. The technique of power balancing. The balancing technique is also called the technique of using the weak. You cannot allow subordinates to have too much power or become too dependent on them. This reduces your own authority, even if it's a strategic need for the company. If you promote one person, you must soon promote another to balance power. When their power grows too large, it becomes a threat to you. The so-called balancing technique is about dispersing the strength of subordinates. No single party can have too much power. If any side dares to betray you, the other forces will attack the traitor. A boss cannot rely solely on loyal people or solely on cunning ones. When the loyal grow too strong, use the cunning. When the cunning grow too strong, use the loyal. This is the balance between loyalty and competence. When I read history, I didn't understand why emperors distanced themselves from loyal subjects and employed cunning ones. Later, I realized that when the loyal faction grows too powerful, they become as much a threat to the emperor as the cunning ones. The emperor's purpose in using cunning people was to control the loyal ones. An excellent boss constantly balances the forces of the loyal and the cunning. The more they fight each other, the safer the boss's power remains. If they stop fighting, they'll come for you. After Liu Bang conquered the empire, he spent 8 years eliminating threatening vassal kings and granting territories to his relatives. History proved that granting titles to family wasn't more reliable than to outsiders. Non-family vassals, if rebellious, only sought independence, while family vassals aimed for the throne. With his political wisdom, Liu Bang couldn't have been unaware of this. He didn't kill all the founding heroes. Those not granted titles were mostly spared. On one hand, the northern Xiongnu threat required keeping capable fighters. On the other, these key vassals could balance the Liu family vassals, and vice versa. Liu Bang could overpower both sides, controlling from the center. When Liu Bang died, the Liu vassals indeed stirred trouble, but the retained key vassals quickly quelled the unrest. We trained leaders nationwide and found many bosses threatened daily by a single dominant faction, often the cunning ones. If a boss masters the balancing technique, managing a team becomes effortless. Power security is a boss's lifeline. Every decision must prioritize power safety. We must guard against powerful managers, not based on their competence, reputation, or goodness, but on their potential to rebel. If a manager shows that potential, find a reason to remove them. A person rebels not because they want to, but because they have the ability to, which breeds the desire. Why did Emperor Kangxi of the Qing dynasty eliminate Ao Bai and Wu Sangui? At the time, they looked down on Kangxi but didn't dare rebel outright. In ancient times, the ability to be emperor wasn't the top priority. Legitimacy as royal blood was. Even as a 7 or 8-year-old royal child, you'd gain support. But without clear lineage, any attempt at the throne made you a traitor to all. Thus, Ao Bai and Wu Sangui didn't dare rebel easily. Kangxi removed them simply because they had the capacity to rebel. Even if it meant mutual destruction, they had to go. Dealing with such people requires cunning power play, not direct force, but subtle, shadowy tactics for smooth elimination. If you follow a standard process to eliminate them, you give them enough time to prepare. A person with the ability to rebel also has significant destructive potential. They might catch you off guard before you can safely remove them. First, isolate them. Like boiling a frog in warm water, transfer them from key positions, reduce their power, and strip away their support. Then, set traps through tasks, ultimately rendering them powerless to resist. This makes removing powerful, disobedient managers more effective. If you act too transparently or stick to principles, you won't get good results. During the Western Han Dynasty, the power of vassal kings grew so strong that Emperor Jing's authority was threatened. A man named Chao Kuo directly advised Emperor Jing to reduce the vassals' power and abolish their fiefs. This sparked the rebellion of the 7 states, nearly costing Emperor Jing his throne. With no other choice, he executed Chao Kuo to prove to the 7 states that the idea wasn't his but Chao Kuo's misguided suggestion. Poor Chao Kuo became a scapegoat. Faced with a similar situation, Emperor Wu, Emperor Jing's son, employed a clever strategy called the Tuan Order. What does that mean? The vassal kings of the 7 states had become like kings of their own domains, with power so great they could easily mobilize their entire forces against Emperor Wu. He devised a plan to fragment their power. He appointed their relatives to official positions. The vassal king's older brother became a mayor, younger brother a district chief, nephew a town head, and uncle a village leader. With their power divided, and their relatives holding office, these officials naturally prioritized their own interests over blind loyalty to the vassal king. They had to weigh the pros and cons. This made it much harder for the vassals to rally them against Emperor Wu. This was a brilliant tactic by Emperor Wu, called Tuan, bestowing grace, but in reality, it was a reduction of vassal power. 3. The most powerful brainwashing technique. A business is like a kingdom. The boss is the king, senior managers are the officials, and employees are the commoners. Thus, the art of managing people for a boss can also be called the art of emperorship. First, let's clarify a concept. What emperors and commoners learn is entirely opposite. Similarly, what bosses and employees should learn should also be opposites. To master the art of managing people, you must follow 2 principles. First, reject the ideas you previously thought were correct. Second, start accepting the ideas you once considered wrong. In the past, you learned about ideals like truth, goodness, and beauty. Those are employee mindsets. But today, you begin learning the strategies and tactics of a boss. To achieve great success, you must love your employees and customers with a generous heart. But that alone isn't enough. Many bosses who pursue truth, goodness, and beauty in their actions have been outmaneuvered by employees. We need strong tactics to control the team. The goal is to realize the shared dream of both us and our employees. Thus, an excellent boss must have both a compassionate heart and fierce tactics. How do you brainwash employees? The first key to brainwashing is changing their value system. This is the hardest step, requiring constant propaganda and reinforcement. A person's outlook on life and values form early. Changing someone's values is like swapping their brain for the kind you want. How do you do it? The 3-character classic has a line, "Half of the Analects can rule the world." This was said by Xiao Pu, a prime minister of the Song dynasty. Because of this, I realize many bosses look to the Analects to manage employees. We've trained bosses nationwide and seen many clutching the Analects, studying diligently, thinking that mastering it will let them manage employees, making me smirk. Half of the Analects can rule the world. Isn't wrong, but that book isn't for you to read to manage employees. The Analects, written by Confucius, was meant for emperors to brainwash the masses with the 3 bonds and 5 virtues: benevolence, propriety, righteousness, wisdom, and trust, to bind their thinking, strip them of independent thought and resistance, and educate them into docile sheep, naturally easier to control. So, the Analects is for employees to read. A boss clinging to it daily is brainwashing themselves, ultimately turning themselves useless. If your company doesn't collapse, it'd be a disservice to your Analects studies. If you want employees to have positive energy, have them read the I Ching daily. As an employee, I once tried it. Reading it daily lifted my mood. To inspire effort, show them motivational films, speeches, or stories of disabled people succeeding. Of course, searching for books and films daily would be inconvenient. So, combine all these brainwashing ideas into a corporate culture. It's far more efficient. In short, whatever kind of person you want your employees to be, just have them read those ideas daily. One key point: let employees read on their own. Don't lecture them daily with a book in hand. It's pointless. Think back to how teachers taught us as kids. They wrote "pig" on the board, made us repeat it aloud, and had us copy it 10 times at home. Years later, when someone writes that word, we unhesitatingly read "pig." Changing someone's values requires repeating the same idea over and over. Note, if your business model isn't profitable, and you don't share profits with employees, your brainwashing won't work. Don't think about exploiting them. If your goal in brainwashing employees is to deceive them, your business is doomed. Brainwashing employees is about making the team stronger, helping the business achieve the shared dream of wealth for both boss and staff. The second key aspect of brainwashing is changing the environment. Have you heard the saying, "Build a new nest to attract a phoenix"? Human needs boil down to two things: mental happiness and physical comfort. From training many bosses, we've noticed a common trait among successful businesses. Beyond ensuring employees earn more than their industry peers, these bosses prioritize their living welfare. They provide good food, comfortable housing, and even daily necessities. Everyone's familiar with Heideleo. Its boss, Zhang Yong, offers the best welfare among Chinese companies. Heideleo employees might eat and live better than you, the boss. Many think it's because Zhang Yong is kind to employees, but that's not the full story. He gives them top-tier living conditions, so their bodies grow accustomed to that comfort. Once they leave, they can't cope elsewhere. That's why Heideleo's staff rarely get poached. We all know it's easy for people to adapt from poverty to wealth, but not from wealth to poverty. There's a saying, "To ruin someone, keep them in their comfort zone. Once they're there long enough, they can't leave." 4. The art of psychological conquest. In ancient times, there was a powerful technique to control people's minds called mind capture. For example, when visiting a friend, if they ask, "Would you like something to drink?" most people say, "No, thanks." But if they say, "We have coffee or green tea, which would you like?" surveys show most people pick one. You didn't want to drink at first, so why does the second question make you unconsciously choose? This is the crux of mind capture, forcing others into your framework to achieve your goal. The subconscious often reacts mechanically. For instance, if someone on the street says, "Take a photo for me, thanks," most people grab the camera without knowing why. Almost no one refuses such a request. Some guys chasing girls do this too. Asking, "Will you be my girlfriend?" often leads to rejection. But creating a moment, like holding her hand during karaoke or a movie and not letting go, often succeeds because it triggers a mechanical response. On a street with two noodle shops, at shop A, the waiter asks, "Would you like an egg with that?" Many say, "No." At shop B, the waiter asks, "For this noodle, would you like one egg or two?" Most reply, "One is fine." Two salespeople sell the same product. When a customer says it's too expensive, salesperson A says, "It's not expensive. Our product's quality is great. It's costly because it's good." The customer walks away. But when the customer says it's too expensive to salesperson B, he says, "Do you hope our product was a bit cheaper? How about I throw in some gifts?" The customer, surprised, says, "Oh, okay." Then the salesperson adds, "I'll get you an extra discount and a gift set. Just wait a moment." Somehow, the customer ends up buying it. The core of mind capture is breaking the other person's fixed thinking, pushing them into a blank state, the lowest energy point. 5. Maintaining mystery. In 1932, former French President Charles de Gaulle said, "There is no prestige without mystery, for familiarity breeds contempt." Only by hiding like a deity in a deep temple can one exude majesty. Whether playing or acting, you must be unpredictable. He also said, "I am a solitary man, and I love that solitude." 3,000 years ago, in a kingdom called Media, there was a tribe led by a man named Diocles. He was revered for his virtue. Every village dispute, over a well or a wrongly felled tree, went to him for fair resolution. Other elders grew senile with age, taking bribes and turning corrupt, but Diocles grew more just, becoming the tribe's god of justice. One day, tired, Diocles announced his retreat into seclusion. Without him, the tribe lost its pillar, descending into division and endless disputes no one could settle. Finally, they begged Diocles to return. He refused repeatedly, but, under their pleas, reluctantly agreed, on one condition: they build him a deep palace with guards, where he'd live hidden forever. If they needed him, they'd go through a trusted intermediary. Even his servants saw him only once a week. This mystery made Diocles' authority unassailable. He later became king of Media, expanding its lands and laying the foundation for a greater empire, Persia, Iran. A boss, while maintaining good relations with employees, must keep a physical distance. Never let employees guess your thoughts. Maintain a certain mystique. Only by avoiding close confidants or overly intimate ties can you ensure your safety and authority. The moment you get too close to anyone, it creates a major obstacle to your future management.